well, what does your patriarchal blessing say? Does it say that we're going to get married like mine does? So I was in a YSA ward for like 3 or 4 years. And there was this one guy who it was his goal to take out every single girl in the entire ward. And so I'd been there long enough. I'd seen him take out all the other girls and I knew that my time was coming. One Sunday, I see him weasel his way right on into my conversation. Says, hey, I'd love to take you out. Can I have your number? And he sits there and calls my phone to make sure I gave him the right number. We scheduled a date for later that week. We go to Cafe Rio. Full drive to Cafe Rio is just how you expect. He's telling me all his mission stories, all his glory day stories. And then he turns on, he asked me, well, where did you go on your mission? And I said, oh, I didn't go on a mission. And he said, well, why not? And then he starts going into this rant. It's so unfair that women can choose if they want to go, but men can't. I never wanted to go, and just does his whole rant. But then listen to this. But it all turned out okay for me because even though I didn't want to go, all the girls in my district were always cute. So I had a great time. We sit down, we get our food, and again, it turns back to that same conversation. Well, you should still go on a mission. You still have time. Why don't you want to go? And I don't want to explain the personal conversations I've had with God telling me not to go on a mission. And so I finally just say, this is really annoying me. Can we please change conversation? Begrudgingly, this is how the conversation switches. He says, okay, well, tell me about your patriarchal blessing. Then he says this, does yours say that we're going to get married like mine does? Surely I have not heard him correctly. Surely there has been a mistake. There's not been a mistake. Because he says, my patriarchal blessing talks about a girl that does all the same things you do, that has all the same qualities that you do, so you're mine. I just kind of like laughed this off. Okay, that's kind of crazy. He took me home that night. He kind of like gave me a hug and said, so I think it's not going to work out between us. And I was like, no, dodged a hug, got out of there. Fast forward a few years. Homeboy gets engaged to the girl he dated right after me, who was also in our ward. So we're at the wedding, okay? At the wedding, in this man's speech, he thanks me personally for being a bad date so that he could meet his wife. Then his wife gets up and shares their how you met story. And in this how you met story, he says to her, what does your patriarchal blessing say? Because mine says that we're going to get married. I'm somewhat shocked, somewhat perturbed. Turns out, as I talked to a whole bunch of other girls in the world that he'd also taken out, he had used that same line on almost every single one of them. And now his recently married wife used that part of the story as her love story. This is how I knew. Men are awful. The audacity of man. If this made you uncomfortable, please follow along for more stories, because I have plenty.